Hobby Quick Hits, delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. I'm John Newman, but there'll be two people on this episode. This is part 3 and final installment of our NFL draft breakdown that I did with my good friend Dan Tortora, one of the inspirations behind Sports Card Nation podcast. Glad to call Dan a friend. While we're talking about Dan, check out all his stuff on the DBTM Network and the Dan Tortora broadcast media. And he thankfully lent us this audio to utilize as well. And Dan does sports coverage, movie reviews, live shows. Dan is a jack of all trades and master of most. And had fun chopping it up with him a day after the draft. And we went through all 32 teams. This is part 3. There's been 2 parts already. Part 1 was Arizona, Cincinnati. Part 2 was Cleveland and Minnesota. And this episode's part 3, which will be the New England Patriots to the Washington Commanders. So we go through each pick, kind of give our overall assessment, how we think the team did. Did they make themselves better, worse, somewhere in between? And, Dan covers football for the Jaguars and is a football fan, much like myself, and we're both sort of draft nerds. So we really enjoy chopping it up, and I hope you enjoyed this and the previous 2 episodes as much as we did recording them. So enough from me with the intro. Let's get to part 3 of the NFL draft breakdown with myself and Dan Tortora.
Let's go to the Patriots. First round, 28th, they trade down. They get Caleb Lomu out of Utah, offensive tackle, to help out in protecting Drake May. In the second round, they get Gabe Jacas, Illinois edge rusher. And then in the third round, they get Eli Raridon, the tight end out of Notre Dame. I like that pick. And they need a tight end. Fifth round, after not drafting in the fourth, they get Karan Prunty, Wake Forest cornerback. And then in the 6th round, they get Demetrius Crownover, Texas A&M offensive tackle to help their offensive line. 6th round, they get Nnamdi Obiazor, and that is out of TCU linebacker. 7th round, they get 3 picks. Baron Morton out of Texas Tech at quarterback to back up Drake May. Jam Miller, who I love because he's looking to get them out of a jam, Alabama running back. And then they get Quintavious Hutchins out of Boston College.
You read all these names, it's almost like the Keen Peele skit when they do the college football.
Quintavious.
Yeah. And Demetrius Crownover sounds like that.
Yeah. Demetrius Crownover, yeah. Sounds like something that we're saying, Prunty and all that. Yeah. But, yeah, so they bring in another running back. They get a tight end out of Notre Dame. They try to help out their offensive and defensive line. I think what the Patriots are trying to do is they are trying to prepare themselves for a deep run in the postseason after already seeing themselves get there. But this time they want to do it without having to play up against a Denver team that doesn't have their quarterback at Bo Nix. I think right now New England wants to show everyone they can make it without having some help with somebody playing injured.
I thought their draft was solid. It wasn't tremendous. I thought it was solid. I think the biggest cloud now in New England and in Foxborough is the Vrabel Rossini deal.
Yeah.
That just seems to be a story that just doesn't go away and keeps getting more details come out.
And they said something about they drafted a player who's already married, so that could be good publicity. I'm like, it's just really sad that they keep bringing it up. I mean, Listen, no one is affected more than the families of these 2 potential cheaters. And if all of this is true and all this comes to light, who I feel the worst about is not the Patriots. I feel the worst for the family.
Yeah.
Both families.
No doubt. But those kind of distractions can sometimes spill onto what happens on the field and in the locker room.
And the thing is if you don't have morality and values, why would your players want to listen to you?
Yeah, you kudos to you right there. That's where I was going. You're going to get your head coach stand in front of you and say, I need loyalty, and they're going to look at him and
they're going to say, your wife doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Your kids aren't. Oh, by the way, he is playing, or of any coach to do this, he's doing it for the right owner, Robert Kraft.
Yeah, you couldn't script this stuff.
No. I mean, Kraft in and of himself has had some moments potentially here. So sad for the Patriots that the focus is on that and not on the draft, because I think they had a good draft. The New Orleans Saints, without any doubt in my mind, were going to take a wide receiver 8th overall, and I think that they knew they had to when Tennessee took Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. So the Saints in the first round take Jordan Tyson, Arizona State wide receiver. Second round, they take Kristen Miller, Georgia defensive tackle. Third round, they take Oscar Delp, Georgia tight end. Fourth round, they have 2 picks, Jeremiah Wright, offensive guard out of Auburn, and Bryce Lance, North Dakota State wide receiver. Love seeing that. And another Lance in the NFL besides Trey now. And then in the 5th round, Lorenzo Styles Jr., Ohio State safety. 6th round, Berrien Brown to the Saints out of LSU at wide receiver. TJ Hall in the 7th round, Iowa corner. So they take 2 DBs, 2 wide receivers, they take 3 wide receivers, 2 DBs, they take a tight end. Obviously, the Saints are telling you, we need help scoring, we need depth in scoring, and then they went a little bit of help, O-line, D-line, and then they went to safety and corner later in the draft. But I think what the Saints are telling you in the here and now is we need scoring, we need guys we can lean on. We've leaned on guys we've drafted, and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, they got 2 wide receivers. They didn't take any running backs, Dan. I thought they could have went.
Shocking, though, right? Because what's going to happen with Kamara? But they brought in Travis Etienne Jr.
Is it me, or does Kamara feel like he's been in the league 20 years? I know he hasn't.
It does feel that way.
But
the other thing about it, though, is Travis Etienne, again, with the question mark, the Jaguars had multiple years to extend Travis Etienne Jr. They decided not to, which made me believe for the last 2 or 3 years they would shop him as a trade bait. He's a number 1 running back. He catches out of the backfield. He is a serviceable guy. He's a good fantasy football guy. He's a consistent guy when he's healthy. He's an every down weapon, and they let him go for literally nothing to New Orleans.
Yeah.
You know how many picks they could have gotten for that?
Yeah, I agree. I like Travis at the end. I just think they could have added a running back piece in their draft. But they definitely added the 2 receivers. That's going to help whoever the quarterback is, assuming it's Shuck, maybe Spencer Rattler. But they're doing what they need to do to compete. I think they're a year or 2 away, at least, but they added some pieces.
I'm going to say this, too, because I just said it wrong again. Travis Etienne Jr. has stated his name has been said wrong since he was in college. His last name, Etienne, is supposed to be pronounced Achan, which means that Devin Achan and Travis Achan are 2 Achans in the NFL, even though there's only 1 Achan, which means that his younger brother is also Trevor Achan, which means that Devin Achan should be really pissed off right now that somebody's trying to steal his thunder a little bit.
Yeah, I'm confused already.
So just for everybody there at home to be a little bit more confused. Let's go to the Giants. They didn't have a ton of picks, but I think that they hit it right where they needed to hit it. I said they needed to go O-line, D-line, D-line, O-line. I said you got 2 picks in the top 10, go to the trenches. They somehow got Arvell Reese to fall to them at 5, Ohio State. He's marked as an edge rusher and a linebacker. He's a hybrid, so don't get weird, people that didn't get Stunny Styles. This is a hybrid guy. So you got Arvell Reese for your D-line or wherever you want him. You got Francis C.C. Mauigoa out of Miami, who I interviewed a bunch of times, caught a touchdown pass against Syracuse at Miami this year at O-tackle. He might play guard. And then you got Colton Hood at the top of the 2nd round out of Tennessee at a corner. That was a steal. You get Malachi Fields, a wide receiver out of Notre Dame, 3rd round, could be a steal. And then you don't draft until the 6th round, no 4th, no 5th. 3 in the 6th round, none in the 7th. The Giants get Bobby Jamison Travis out of Auburn, D tackle, J.C. Davis, Illinois, offensive tackle, and Jack Kelly out of BYU at linebacker. So you got 2 guys that can play linebacker. You got a D lineman interior, You got 2 offensive linemen, and then you went wide receiver corner. The Giants are finally doing what they should have done 115 years ago, which is figure out their offensive and defensive line.
I think they had one of the better drafts, Dan. Got great picks almost every round. Harbaugh and that front office did a good job. They're going to be competing in the NFC in that division with the Eagles and the Commanders. I almost said Redskins. And I like the Giants draft. So we'll see how it pans out. I thought maybe they could go with a running back. I know Scatterbo's their guy, but just for depth. But they still have, I believe, Tracy is still in that mix. So I like them adding another receiver with Malik Neighbors. Their draft was one of the better ones out of the 32 teams.
Yeah, I mean, Darius Slayton's been up and down. Calvin Austin III out of Memphis, I covered him. Gunnar Olszewski, I covered him as well. Let's see if they make the team. Xavier Gibson literally doesn't leave MetLife. He goes from the Jets to the Giants, and then we'll see what they can do. I mean,
they got Mooney and Austin from the Steelers. Mooney.
Yeah.
Mooney's one of those guys like you expect.
Tulane, another guy I covered.
But I like them taking a flyer with him. I thought maybe they could add another receiver. I think they're going to be okay with their draft pick.
And Theo Johnson was good. Isaiah Likely's been good. They're both there at tight end. Yeah. And then there's that Jacksonville tight end that they got rid of before his rookie contract, Chris Manher.
Yeah.
Bringing a guy in like him. But I think it was Cam Scatterbo, who I told you all last year was going to be the starter at running back before the season started. They were looking at moving Tyrone Tracy to more of a pass-catching running back, which they can do, and they have Singletary now. I think with that way of kind of putting together their running back core, plus Malik Neighbors, and hopefully with the Giants getting some help from Malachi Fields, we could see a team that's going to get better here. And Maui Goa coming in and blocking for Jackson Dart. I'm a big fan of Jackson Dart. I still think people should buy his cards right now and make sure that you buy them and send them out and do some wheeling and dealing. I like what the Giants are becoming, and I'll tell you this right now. I firmly believe that with John Harbaugh, they automatically got better with the pedigree of coaching.
Yeah, I agree. They upgraded it.
So let's go to the New York Jets, who also play at MetLife. They get David Bailey, my prediction for the 2nd overall pick out of Texas Tech, the edge rusher. Then they make me totally confused after drafting Mason Taylor. They draft Kenyon Sadiq this year, 16th overall. They need help all over the place. They've given up so many defensive players. They let all these guys go that they drafted a few years ago, including Sauce Gardner, and they decided to draft the tight end out of Oregon, who I'm happy for. I just don't understand why he's a Jet, in Kenyon Sadiq. Then they trade back into the draft to go 30th overall and get Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, who I like at wide receiver. Then they draft a guy who I have probably the rarest card I've ever gotten from a box, and it's from GG Cards and Breaks. It's numbered to 5. It's a refractor. It's the red parallel, Bowman first, of D'Angelo Pons. It's signed by him with a special inscription, and he gets drafted to the Jets in the 2nd round, Indiana corner. I know my Jets fans got money in the New York, New Jersey area, so I'll be putting that one on eBay. But he is in the 7th round, D'Angelo Pons. I love that pick. I'm hoping he can take the place of Sauce Gardner. And then Darrell Jackson Jr. out of Florida State, defensive tackle in the 4th round. Also in the 4th round, this is the guy that could be their starting quarterback at some point this season because I do not trust in the second coming of Geno Smith. And that's Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, a 4th round steal. Again, I like Cade Klubnik and Carson Beck more than I like the Ty Simpson pick in the 1st round. And then Inez Cooper out of Miami at offensive guard in the 6th round helps out their offensive line. And VJ Payne out of Kansas State, safety in the 7th round. I like the Jets pickups. I'm just confused by Kenyon Sadiq.
You stole exactly what I'm going to say. I think the Jets had a great draft. The Sadiq pick is a head scratcher. I don't think it was a pressing need. And to take him in as the 16th pick overall, I think they could have went in a different direction. I love them. I love the Cooper and Pons picks back to back.
Look at the value. Yeah. Cooper, Pons, and Klubnik are all value picks.
Yeah. The Sadiq pick, this was a pretty heavy tight end draft. I don't think he was the 16th best player in the country.
No.
I'm not saying he's not good.
Well, and look at their receivers. They got Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell came in a trade with the Colts last year. And then you got a bunch of non-household names. Adonai Mitchell isn't even a household name. No. And then you got Jelani Woods, who's young at tight end. You got Mason Taylor, who's young at tight end. And, I mean, you look at your offensive line, which you could help. Your defensive line, David Bailey is going to be a starting D-end immediately. But then you look at your linebacker situation and kind of where you're at with everything. And you look at your corner, I mean, your D-backs that you have. You bring in D'Angelo Pons, you got Micah Fitzpatrick and Andre Cisco from Syracuse, a stupid move that the Jaguars made to let him go instead of extending him out of his rookie contract. But, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, why would you go tight ends? If anything, you go wide receiver. Maybe you take two wide receivers.
I didn't realize how bad their wide receiver room was until you pulled up the depth chart.
Yeah, it's
after Garrett Wilson, and he can get hurt. He's shown propensity to miss a little time. So, did they even pick a receiver?
Yeah, they got one wide receiver.
Cooper.
That was it, yeah.
I think I would have went with another. I think I would have went with another receiver a little bit earlier, maybe where the Sadiq pick was.
I would have wide receivers.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah. You could have gone to Denzel Boston or a Casey Concepcion.
Yeah.
So let's go to the Eagles, who did go wide receiver. They traded up to take the Cowboys pick, 20 from 23 to 20. They take Mekhi Lemon out of USC at wide receiver, which truly makes you believe that A.J. Brown, that whole thing is kind of that drama and everything that's gone on. Mekhi Lemon could step in here and help out Devontae Smith and the crew. And then not trusting their pick years ago with Dallas Goedert, they get one of the best tight ends in the draft in the back part of the second round, and Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. Then they get Markel Bell, Miami offensive tackle in the third round, nothing in the fourth. In the fifth round, the Eagles get Cole Payton out of North Dakota State at quarterback, I guess because they missed Carson Wentz. And then they got in the sixth round Micah Morris out of Georgia at offensive guard. And then in the seventh round, Cole Wisniewski, safety out of Texas Tech, Uar Bernard out of Nigeria, D-tackle with the NFL's overseas plan. And then Keyshawn James Newby, who will be a newbie in the NFL, out of New Mexico in the seventh round as an edge rusher. What do you think about Philly?
Man, they do some Philly things, right? I think, like you said, I think A.J. Brown's time in Lincoln Financial's over. They traded, for those that I'm sure the news is out, right? The Steelers were on the phone with Lemon, telling him he was about to be a Steeler.
And I think they showed him on the phone.
Yeah.
So people probably thought he was on the phone with Philly, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Or Dallas.
And then Philly trade. How about Philly trading with a rival to move up? That was what struck me the most. So does Dallas hate McCarthy that much that they would trade with Philly to stop him from getting
And I'm
Lemon?
also thinking in my head, think about a few years ago when Philly traded up to be right above Dallas, when Dallas could have taken Dallas Goedert and had Dallas in Dallas. Philly went right above them to steal him, and now they go above Pittsburgh to steal Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, trading with Dallas was like the head scratcher to Dan.
Well, it's like Kansas City and the Bills. Like, they go up against each other in the playoffs, and you see Kansas City lose Tyreek Hill, who's fast. So then you let them get Xavier Worthy at the pick you would have been in to go up against you.
But at least they're not in the same division. I mean, Dallas and Philly are in the same division. That one was a whole weird, I don't know, I've never seen that like that before, at least to my recollection.
So now you got Mekhi Lemon, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Eli Stowers, Tank Bigsby, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. You got a real strong offense, but now the question becomes, do you have enough depth on the offensive line? And defensively, you have Cooper DeJean, but besides him and Quinion Mitchell and whatnot, and Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, what are you going to do, Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? Do you have enough on the defensive side of the ball? Because they really didn't address defense in the draft.
Yeah, their offensive coordinator got canned. They got a new guy in there. So I think they feel like if they can put points up, their defense is good enough just to win games.
Yeah, and that might be what they're going for right now in Philadelphia. As we shift to your Pittsburgh Steelers, we go from one end of the state of Pennsylvania to the other end, and it makes sense that God put these cities on opposite sides because they really don't like each other. The Pittsburgh Steelers they wanted to. I thought that maybe they would take Ty Simpson at 21 because of the drama with Aaron Rodgers. They take Max Ianacker out of Arizona State at offensive tackle, whoever's going to block for their quarterback. In the second round, the Pittsburgh Steelers take Jeremy Bernard, Alabama wide receiver. Then in the third round, they do take a quarterback, but they take a guy that I still think has not proven himself in Drew Aller out of Penn State. In the third round, they had 2 more picks, Dalen Everett, Georgia corner. Then they take another O-tackle, Jennings Dunker out of Iowa offensive tackle. And then in the fourth round, they take Caden Wetchen, Iowa wide receiver, teammates there. Then they get a guy who I love his story. This guy was a walk-on at Wisconsin, banked on himself, paid for his education, and then transferred to Indiana, and then had the first touchdown of either Miami or Indiana in the national championship game. And then I got to meet him on the field and his former teammate at Wisconsin to interview 5th-round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, Riley Nowakowski, who has one of the greatest faith-based God stories in banking on himself. Indiana tight end going to them in the 5th round, in the back half of the 5th round. Gabriel Rubio in the 6th round out of Notre Dame, D tackle going to Pitt. And then they take in the 7th round Robert Spears Jennings out of Oklahoma at safety. And then speaking of one of the best stories, probably the best response by everybody in Pittsburgh, and a response that was extended, expanded through numerous picks because nobody could get enough of this guy, a guy that I covered at Navy. Big time shout out. I texted head coach of Navy, Brian Newberry, who was excited about this, and Landon Robinson, the fact that Eli Heidenreich, who's down as a running back but caught balls as a wide receiver, Eli Heidenreich from Navy, 7th round pick, 14th pick in the 7th round, and he had probably one of the greatest moments in NFL draft history with the Pittsburgh fans. It looked like it was an Eli Heidenreich Rolling Stones concert. Yeah. And between him and Riley Nowakowski, I think the Steelers stole the draft with 2 of the best stories of the NFL draft in 2026.
Yeah, and Heidenreich is a local. He's from Pittsburgh, so that's where a lot of that came in. I think when you look at, I don't hate their draft. I hate the Drew Aller pick, Dan. I think.
Do you think they were going to go Ty Simpson?
If you're saying if he wouldn't have picked at 13, I'd love to find out, right? Yeah. Only they know for sure. They're not going to tell you at this point because they don't have them. Yeah. I like Hanacor. I think they had, Lemon basically got swept. They got the rug swept out from under him with Lemon. Yeah. I didn't love Lemon, so that wasn't as crushing as it seemed. It was more embarrassing because here the draft is in your town, and then that happens on national TV.
But you do have Michael Pittman Jr., you do have DK Metcalf, and I think one of the greatest steals for Pittsburgh in the offseason is a guy that never panned out in Dallas, but then had a great season in Carolina, and I don't know why Carolina let him go, which is Rico Dowdle.
Yeah. I like where they're going. If they can figure out this darn quarterback,
right now they have Will Howard and Mason Rudolph
and Drew Aller, who hasn't lived up to expectations. Going back to their picks, I like Hanacor. I didn't like the pick as much when they made it, but when I look more into him, I do like him. He's going to probably plug and play and start right away. He's a little bit of a project, but I think he's going to be good long term. I love the Jeremy Bernard pick as a wide. I actually like him better than Lemon. So they sort of saved face with the Bernard pick. The Aller pick, I literally, when that pick was announced, I did this.
Yeah.
Why? You could have got him. If they like him, I get it. Like if McCarthy, who's a quarterback,
I think you could have gotten him as an undrafted free agent.
You could have got him in the 4th or 5th round.
I don't even know, I don't know. He was one of the guys that I didn't know if he was going to even get drafted.
Yeah, way too early for him.
He gets drafted ahead of Baron Morton. There's a Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, he got drafted way too early. I get it if the Steelers secretly liked him, but they reached picking him too soon. Yeah. I like the Jennings Dunker pick. He's going to be good as well. He's a character. So I think they address some of their offensive line issues. Caden Wetjen is a special teams guy.
Yeah.
I think they went a little too early with him. So
And you got two Iowa players.
And their uniforms look. They tend
Right.
to. I don't know why they always.
But these Iowa players, Dunker and Wetjen, you get these two guys to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they were coached by offensive coordinator of Iowa, former offensive coordinator of Syracuse, Tim Lester.
Yeah. So we made the connection there. The Wetjen pick, I think they picked him too soon. I don't like the value there. He's a special teams guy. The Aller pick was very disappointing at that point in the draft. The Rubio pick, I'm not a fan of. I like Spears Jenkins. I like Heidenreich. So they finished
You're going to like Nowakowski, too.
Yeah, I do like him.
Because he's a fullback. He's like, they put him down as tight end, but he could be the guy that's blocking for Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle.
Yeah. So I like a majority of the draft. Take Aller, the Rubio, Aller, Wetjen. Those were head scratchers at where they were taken, Dan.
And I Hanacor, I'm sorry for saying his name. There's a lot of different ways of saying his name. But I do want to say this. When I think of Pittsburgh and I think of the jersey I would buy right now, every time I think of them, I say the same thing every time. The Muth is on fire. I love Pat Fryermuth.
And they don't use him enough. They
Exactly.
don't use him enough. Well, just so you know, I like the Nowakowski pick, like you talked about him in Indiana. They're going to make him, I think, into a fullback.
Yeah, that's
kind of a hybrid, if you will.
That's what he was.
Yeah.
Because he said that. He said, like, I'm a fullback, and they talks about the dying breed, and he talked about it during the college football playoff, even though he's written down as a tight end. Let's go to Seattle. Seattle, to me, did one of the best things. They stayed in the first round as the national champion, and they draft a guy to plug and play with the loss of Kenneth Walker III to the Chiefs. Now Jadarian Price steps in from Notre Dame. His teammate Jeremiah Love goes at the beginning of the first round to the Arizona Cardinals. I think Jadarian Price could be a steal of the first round by Seattle, who stayed in and took him. Then in the second round, they take Bud Clark out of TCU at safety. They take Julian Neal in the third round, Arkansas corner. So they go DBs in the back line to try and help the Legion of Boom Part 2. And then nothing in the fourth round. Fifth round in the early part, they take Bo Stevens, offensive guard out of Iowa. And then in the sixth round in the middle, they take Kansas wide receiver Emmanuel Henderson Jr., who could be interesting here. And then 3 in the seventh round, Seattle takes Andre Fuller out of Toledo at corner, Devin Easton, Minnesota D tackle, and Michael Dansby out of Arizona at corner. So they go heavy. They take 4 defensive backs, and then they take a running back who could start right away.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know a ton about Price.
Okay.
So I thought Cooper, or Coleman, I should say, Jonah Coleman was going to be the second running back taken.
Yeah.
And he's a Washington guy, so he would have been fit in Seattle. But so, Price is their pick.
He was behind Jeremiah, so you look at his 3 years in Notre Dame, 13 games, 272, 3 touchdowns rushing. 2024, 16 games, 120 carries from 47 the year before, 746 yards, 7 touchdowns. This past year, 12 games, 113 carries, so almost as many carries in 4 less games, 674 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, 21 touchdowns in 3 seasons rushing, almost 1,700 yards in 3 seasons. But here's the big thing, 5.8, 6.2, and 6. Those are his average yards per carry. He averages 6 yards a carry in 3 years.
Yeah, and I think he's obviously
and I'm not sold
good.
on Zach Charbonnet. That's
he's obviously good. Dan, I think they're also looking at him as like there's less wear on that tire.
Yeah, and
you're
he can
getting a
catch out of the
solid
backfield.
running back who has a little less tread taken off the tires. So I get it. I thought they might have, thought about Coleman being, in Washington.
Well, and I think what they can really do here is when you look at Zach Charbonnet and you look at the fact that he's a guy who's had 33 and 42 reception seasons, I think Charbonnet Charbonnet is never going to be the every down guy by himself. So I think bringing in Jadarian Price and letting him run between the tackles, you're putting Charbonnet in a place where he can be a pass catching and maybe a third down guy, which I think they're going to complement each other. And I think Price is going to play right away. We're going to give you our last few here. We got 4 more to go. Let's go to Seattle. Or not Seattle, San Francisco. We just went to Seattle. So San Francisco, in the second round, they have the first pick. They take, because they traded out in the first round. They get Dejon Stribling, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Third round, they have 2 picks. Romello Height, Texas Tech edge rusher. And then I love this guy. I interviewed this guy. I love his faith in God. He bet on himself. He was not a high D1 guy when he came out from high school to college, and he just won a national championship in the college football playoff. Love this guy. Kalon Black, third round, late part of the third round, to San Fran, out of Indiana at running back. I don't like that he's behind CMC, but I do like that he's got a shot. And I mean, CMC also doesn't stay healthy all the time. And CMC throws, catches, and runs. So Kalon Black might be more of that guy, not a lot of wear and tear, to be a between the tackle guy to help out an older CMC, who I pray stays healthy. Grayson Halton, 4th round, 3 picks in the 4th round for San Fran. Grayson Halton, Oklahoma D tackle. Carvin Willis, Washington offensive tackle. Ephesians Brysock, Washington corner. So you got Ephesians and Genesis both being drafted in the 2026 NFL draft. And then Jaden Duggar out of Louisiana at linebacker in the 5th round. And then the man who used to play at Syracuse that I bet on, my little bro, my vice president, if I ever run for president, 5th round pick toward the tail end of the 5th round. Enrique Cruz Jr. out of Kansas, offensive tackle, goes to San Fran, and he's got a shot at making this team.
Yeah, I thought they could have traded up. I thought they could have traded up to address the wide receiver a little bit stronger. Dan. I don't love their draft, but I think Purdy needs weapons. You got CMC, who's a weapon in himself, but look at their wide receiver room.
Mike Evans now, who's older
I
though.
forgot about him, but
Christian Kirk, who's a good possession guy.
Yeah.
Pearsall's not consistent. DeMarcus Robinson, and then a bunch of non-household names.
Yeah.
And George Kittle is 115 years old. And Luke Farrell, again, within the last few years, Jacksonville drafted him and let him go.
Yeah.
At tight end.
If I was them, and we don't know, maybe they did, Dan, and we're not aware of it, I might have tried to just trade up to get a bigger name wide receiver.
Well, the thing is they traded down out of the first round to go and get Stribling out of Ole Miss, so we'll see how that goes out for the San Francisco 49ers, but hoping for Enrique Cruz Jr. Let's go to Tampa. Tampa didn't have many picks. They had 7 picks in 7 rounds, but they didn't draft in the 7th round. They had a first, a second, a third, a fourth, 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th. They get Reuben Bain Jr. I thought Reuben was going to be gone by now, and I agreed with Jeff Cookie Cook, who joined me for the mock draft with El Romano at Pizza Man on draft night of the first day. He said Reuben Bain would go anywhere from 5 to 15. I agreed with that. He went 15th. I thought he was going to go to Miami, but instead he goes to Tampa, so he stays in the state of Florida. He's got to come a couple hours north. Reuben Bain Jr., edge rusher, trained by Jason Taylor out of Miami, 15th overall. Josiah Trotter out of Missouri goes in the 2nd round to the Bucs at linebacker. In the 3rd round, they get Ted Hurst, Georgia State wide receiver, which is huge. They get a Miami teammate to join Reuben Bain. This is a guy who intercepted and ran it back, and I got to watch this in real time in the college football playoff. What a friggin' phenom guy who took time to look at the other team's bench while he was running it in. Keontae Scott, this man's got some flair, he's got some flavor, he's got some pizzazz. I think Tampa's going to like him. Cornerback out of Miami. Mark my words, he makes the team. I'm saying first-year interception and maybe a return for a touchdown. DeMonte Capehart out of Clemson, defensive tackle in the 5th round to Tampa. Billy Stroth out of Notre Dame, an offensive guard in the 5th round. And Tampa rounds out with 6th round Bauer Sharp, LSU tight end.
Bain dropped because of the length of his arms, all those, combine measurables, but you can't argue the talent. And like his position coach, who's a Hall of Famer, Jason Taylor, says, listen, I know this guy. Tampa Bay's got a dog. I think they got a great value based on a stock dropping because
and a
his
great
arm
man of
got
God, like a fantastic human being for what he stands for.
So I think Tampa Bay pretty solid. They're not a bad
They did a
team.
lot with a little, as opposed to Green Bay.
Yeah, so I like their draft. It wasn't flashy, but they got some players, like you said, with Scott and Bain. They're going to make some plays. And I think when you get guys that kind of stay home, I think that there's something to that. I think that matters to guys.
When I hear Bain, though, I just want him to say, "Oh, Tampa Bay, you think you're good, do you?" I would love to hear that a little bit more from Ruben Bain. Let's go to Tennessee, our second to last one here in alphabetical order. Tennessee didn't have a ton of picks. They cannot, I repeat, cannot, and I said this on Draft Night Live, they cannot help themselves from having a pick in the top 10 and taking a wide receiver. They go and they get a player and they see how good the player is, and then they let the player go because they don't want to pay for that player. Then they try and get another player that's cheaper in the draft, and then that player doesn't pan out. Now they go get another one. They get Carnell Tate. I like it. I'm excited for him at Ohio State. I thought he was drafted too high at number 4 because, again, Tennessee cannot help themselves from drafting a wide receiver in the top 10 picks. If they're in the top 10, folks, it doesn't matter who's on their roster. They're probably going to take a wide receiver. Look at their recent history. And then in the first round, they trade back in 31st overall to get a guy that fell to them, I thought would go sooner, Keldrick Falk, Auburn edge rusher. In the second round, later part, Anthony Hill Jr., Texas linebacker, and to some people fell a little bit lower. Nothing in the third, nothing in the fourth, 2 in the fifth. They get, at the top of the fifth, Fernando Carmona, Arkansas offensive guard. Bottom of the fifth, they get a guy who I got one of his Penn State cards. This is a guy that was not thought of a lot, but could end up being a steal to a team that desperately needs a running back. Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State, 5th round, bottom part to Tennessee. And then in the 6th round at the top, they get Jackie Marshall, Baylor D tackle. They get Pat Coogan, who I love out of Indiana, in the middle part of the 6th round, center from the championship team, who went from Notre Dame to Indiana but stayed in the state of Indiana. Now he's in Tennessee. And 7th round pick, Jaron Canuck, Oklahoma tight end. So Tennessee going after their O-line, their D-line, trying to address issues, and now they're looking for a starting wide receiver. And don't be surprised if Nicholas Singleton and Syracuse alum Will Nixon, who's going to rookie minicamp, could try and make this team, because I don't think they truly believe in Tajay Spears or Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I think the running back room is a need. I agree with you. The Carnell Tate pick is kind of questionable. You can't argue with the talent, but with the 4th overall pick, there was some of it. They could have went in different directions. I did hear, if had Love not been picked 3 by Arizona, I think he might have went to Tennessee at 4.
I think he definitely would have.
And so I think when Love came off the board, obviously Tate was the best player, at least on Tennessee's draft board, and that's why they made the pick. I think their draft is solid, but they've got a lot of holes to fill. If they believe Cam Ward's the guy, I think they've tried to address getting him some protection.
Yeah.
You look at their wide receiver room, there's some openings there big time.
He likes Io Manor, who they drafted last year. He liked him in the preseason, and as the season went on, he kept going to him. Wendell Robinson showed up for the Giants when injuries happened, so maybe he can show up for Tennessee. But Carnell Tate's going to be the number 1 guy automatically. Yeah. The question becomes, does Tennessee have an every down, every play, every game, all season long, multiple year guy in who they have at running back, and now with Carnell Tate?
Yeah. What I would have done maybe, and I'll see what you think of this, with the Tate pick, I get the need for a receiver. We're looking at their depth chart. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
What about maybe trading back some spots, getting some additional pick, and still picking another decent wide receiver on the board? I guess that's what I would. And again, we don't know what went down or what was attempted. Yeah. But I might have tried to trade back a little bit, still get a receiver, and get extra picks.
Yeah, I think if you're Tennessee and you see Jeremiah Love go to Arizona, it's a little bit of a twitch scenario, and you don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction. Again, it shows you it doesn't matter the coach, it matters the front office. The front office is obsessed with taking wide receivers early, but then you look at how many of those receivers are on the team now, and they're not, none of them. So will Carnell Tate fall into that? Hopefully not for Tennessee, but we'll see. The Washington Commanders, our final team in alphabetical order, assessing the entire 2026 NFL Draft with Sports Card Nation's John Newman, myself, Dan Tortora of Wake Up Call, in the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios at the Baldwinsville YMCA, proudly presented by GG Cards and Breaks. Washington only had 6 picks. They get in the first round because this guy fell to them. I don't know how you don't take the best available player, which was this guy, I think, at the time, in Sonny Styles out of Ohio State at linebacker, 7th overall. And then they pick, not in the second, in the third round, Antonio Williams, a wide receiver out of Clemson. Some people think they need another wide receiver. They got one. Joshua Josephs, Tennessee edge rusher in the 5th round. In the 6th round, 2 picks, one early, one late. Washington takes Katron Allen out of Penn State, which some people may not think much of, but he could make the team. And then we look at Matt Gulbin, Michigan State center, and then they take Ethan Kalakmanis, Rutgers quarterback, in the 7th round, and we'll see what Kalakmanis can do if, gosh forbid, Jaden Daniels goes down again. What do you think about assessing Washington? I love the Sonny Styles.
I love the Sonny Styles pick.
But then you look at Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who's a rookie last year, Rashad White, Jerome Ford. These guys come in from different teams. Terry McLaurin doesn't have anybody behind him. Diami Brown is back in Washington after a year in Jacksonville. They need help at tight ends. So it seems like they didn't address a bunch of issues, but they did get Sonny Styles.
I think they nailed the Sonny Styles pick, and then after that it got a little dicey for them. I think it got a little loose on the rails. I get the Williams pick. You got to pick a Kalamanis in the 7th round. I mean, he's not going to be, I get it's a depth piece, but, who, depending on who else is still left, I might have went in a different direction than that pick. I thought they had more pressing needs than to go that direction. It wasn't terrible, but I wouldn't give him a super high draft.
And that former high draft pick from the Tennessee Titans, Treylon Burks, is now on the Commanders. So we'll see if the Commanders can figure it out, but they need a healthy Jaden Daniels to do it first and foremost. With that being said, this has been the post-draft analysis. All 32 teams, alphabetical order. I don't know anybody else that's going to bring you the draft the way we just did on Wake Up Call with Sports Card Nation's John Newman, myself, Dan Tortora of Wake Up Call from the greater DTBM Network. Thank you all for being with us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Thanks to GG Cards and Breaks. And of course, many thanks to our team in Central and Upstate New York. Make sure to support Great Lakes Honda City, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Ma and Pa's, Brian's Landing, Pizza Man, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Myers Creek, 2 locations on the countryside and in the Syracuse Inner Harbor, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Gray's Craze of Clay, New York, Avicoli's, Game Point Sports Complex, Mother's Cupboard, Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Willow Rock Pizza Pub, and of course, our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Bearcats of Binghamton University. As always, John, appreciate your time.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun chopping up.
And let everybody know how they can find you.
Real simple. If you Google Sports Card Nation, all our social medias and websites will pop up, and you can find us that way.
So, for John Newman, myself, Dan Tortora, for the community, we appreciate y'all, and to everybody that showed up for the draft, thank you for making it amazing. Looks like everybody had a great time out in Pittsburgh. Next year, nation's capital, Washington, D.C. As we always say here from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, God bless, no stress, do your best.